And we're probably going to, okay, yep, get the recording going here. So these are going to be, the 7 things. We can do a Money Monday on all of these things, and I could tell you guys a lot that I think would help you guys submit more premium, get, reduce your chargeback rate, get through more presentations, stuff like that. So that is going to be the things that we'll probably be talking about in the future. I want to do probably a Money Monday for all of these things, but today we're going to be talking about number 7, why it's important to build the value, and then how to show options. Building the value is where you get bigger premiums. So if people feel like they're getting more, if you guys want to mute, appreciate it. Thank you. And so if you show more value to the client, they're going to want to pay more for it. Right now, we don't want to get caught up in trying to, overcompensate for our clients where they can't actually afford it. And you're getting a lot of chargebacks, but this is going to make sure that your clients are getting the most value, you're conveying the most value so that they want to buy the most amount of insurance to protect their families. Okay, so this is how you build value and you show options. And then this also is a little bit of a kind of, it almost ties in a little bit to the underwriting and suitability a little bit, because they all kind of go together a little bit. But I'm not going to be talking a ton about underwriting. I'm just going to be talking, or how to do the suitability sheet just after you get through the suitability sheet, right? You do the underwriting, you kind of figure out what products are available for your client, and then boom, this is where I'm going to pick the actual product. I'm going to pick what product, and then I'm going to build the value off of that. Okay. So this is where I'm picking the product. So these are our 3 main types of products that we have, like types of insurance, right? The underwriting is going to be more like for the carrier, like carrier specific, but this is like, figuring out. And how do we figure out which one of these main products? Well, we got to talk a little bit about going back to this, and I'm going to keep referring back to this timeline, because if you understand this timeline, guys, you're gonna know the sales process so well. Like you're not even gonna have to really think about it as long as you're checking all these boxes. This goes a little bit back to the why, right? So if I sit down with Mary in the beginning and I figure out she wants to take care of burial expenses for herself, I already kind of know what product I'm going with, right? Now, sometimes you have to be the professional, and this is where I think a lot of us could get better, is sometimes you have to be the one to the professional that they're looking to make a recommendation. Okay. So you guys have to know what type of recommendation to make so that you're the professional, because when you're in charge, you're the person in knowledge and you're leading this interaction with the client, they're going to buy from you. Like I know 100% my client's going to buy from me when I go through the suitability sheet and I figure out, well, do you understand the difference between term and a whole life? And they go, no, what do you think I should do? Well, now it's like going to your doctor. It's like, you have some sickness, some ailment, you go to the doctor, your doctor says, well, you can do this or this. And you're going, well, you're the doctor. What, make me better. You know what I mean? So this does tie back to the why, right? Before you even go through anything. So figure out the why. So if you already know the why, figuring out which one of these is going to be easy. Now you have to take in consideration, I'm going to talk a little bit about underwriting. It's like, if you look at term life, right? What is term life used for? Mortgage protection. It's used for income replacement for healthy individuals. So if somebody's unhealthy, but they tell you, they want an IUL, but they're healthy, well, you're going to have to figure out how to explain whole life really, really good so they still buy it. You know what I mean? Because if they can't qualify for an IUL and they can only qualify for whole life, you got to figure out how to build so much value that the client understands that, it is, the reality of the situation, but you can still solve their solution with the product that you have, right? We lose a lot of sales sometimes having to kind of walk back if a client wants something specific, or, hey, I want, $250,000 of coverage, but I have COPD, right? It's like, well, you're not getting it, right? So you got to figure out how to build the value up so much that the client's going to buy it no matter what it is, as long as that you can figure out how to solve their problem, right? So hopefully that's making some sense to you guys. Now, these are the 3 different main types of options that we have, right? And so we have term life, okay, mortgage protection, income replacement, healthy individuals. I like term for people under, 50. You can go term more, it just depends on what the client wants. If you go back to the why, guys, and the client tells you, hey, let's say it's not mortgage protection. Let's just say they want to leave 100,000, and you know they want to leave 100,000 for their kid and they're healthy, and you explain them the value of whole life, and you explain or the value of IULs, right? Then if so you got to work with your client. Now sometimes if your client wants something and they can qualify for it, just give them what they want, right? But sometimes you got to go back and forth a little bit, but you need to be able to make a recommendation, but also you got to also kind of give them what they want if they can qualify for it. So you're kind of walking that line there. So but it's really good to know for term life, if somebody's on disability, they can't get term, right? They're just not going to get it, like unless it's a back or like fracture, like on Mutual of Omaha, they'll take, like, if they have disability because of their back or because of their like knees or something like that. Other than that, any other disability is not on the table for any term or IUL. So as soon as I'm doing the suitability sheet and I figure out they're on disability, I'm going whole life. I already know that. Okay. That's going to save you guys a lot of thought process and time. Okay. So they're on disability, boom. They have no criminal or drug history in the last 5 to 10 years. Okay. I'm going to do an in-depth underwriting training. So I'm not going to talk about this too much, but generally 10 years, if they have any criminal or drug history, no term, no IUL, right? AMAM has something you can do felony after 5 years. But for the most part, term life and IULs are kind of out of the question for that. Okay. What's good about term is you get a bigger benefit and it's less expensive. Okay. And then the terms go from ages 18 to 70. Okay. Where you can qualify for it. So if I have somebody that's 71, probably not going to be looking at a term, or 78, I'm not going to be looking at a term. Right. So that's the term life. Okay. The next one's going to be whole life. Right. We do a lot of whole life doing final expenses. Okay. So we're going to talk a lot about that one today, building the value on that. Final expenses. What's final expenses? Burial, cremation. Ages are typically 40 to 89. It's guaranteed to be permanent and accepts more medical conditions. So it's more lenient underwriting, and it does gain cash value. Those are the kind of the main things you need to be thinking about on that. And then the next one here is IULs. Okay. Now these are designed to be permanent. So something maybe, we don't talk about enough is IULs are not guaranteed to be permanent like whole life. Whole life is guaranteed to age 120. IULs are designed to go to 120, but that doesn't mean they're guaranteed to go to 120. So when I sit down with a client, I tell them about an IUL, I say it's designed to be permanent. Okay. It's basically the same underwriting as a term for the most part. So they're not on disability. Maybe they got a couple medications here and there, maybe a high blood pressure medication, maybe a depression medication for something like, not a ton of stuff, right? If they have diabetes, before 45, it's not happening. It's not going to be an underwriting training, but they have to be pretty healthy, right? I'm going to do an in-depth underwriting training. I think it'll help us too, but that's that. Now, when I'm sitting down with the client too, for the IULs, I'm thinking about ages 0 to 55 is cash value or retirement solutions. Okay. So if I'm sitting down with somebody that's 60 that wants an IUL, I'm not really going to be pitching the cash value retirement type of vehicle for them. And the reason for that is because the cash value and the cost of insurance. So number one, the cost of insurance, we'll talk about that for a second. The cost of insurance is going to be a lot when you're 60 rather than when you're like, 30. Okay. The cost of insurance is going to be so much more expensive. So that premium they're putting in every month, a lot of it's getting eaten up by that cost of insurance. Okay. So the cost of insurance is high. The cash value in the retirement solution is not going to perform very well. It's not sexy. People aren't going to want to, it doesn't really make that much sense. So 0 to 50, but if they're 55 or under, that gives them enough time with the cost of insurance, low enough to be able to get some of those gains, right? And be able to have some permanent death benefit. Okay. So for an IUL, when we're talking about cash value, retirement solutions. If you guys aren't plugged into the Thursday calls, right? It's 9 a.m. PST, whatever it is your time, right? We talk a lot about IULs and in depth and how to design them and stuff like that. It's not going to be an IUL training, but this is what I'm thinking about when I'm sitting down with a client. Okay. So if I'm sitting down, let's say I'm sitting down with Betty and she's 50, she makes like $6,000 a month. And she goes, yeah, I want something permanent. I like the life insurance portion of it, but I do really like the cash value, and she's healthy. you could picture an IUL, right? That's falls into the qualifications for me to go, okay, we could look at an IUL. We can kind of see what we're looking at here, right? Now, if they're over 55, the way that I'm explaining it for an IUL, because I write a lot of these IULs for people 55 and over, but I pitch it like it's a whole life. Okay, so I'm not talking about the cash value. I'm not really talking about the, supplement retirement income. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. What I'm talking about is, hey, this is going to be a permanent death benefit for your family. It's going to have some cash value, but it's an emergency account. Don't really touch it because that account is meant to keep it going later on in the later years of the policy to keep it permanent. So if they're over 55, I'm not talking about, I'm saying, yeah, there's cash value. Yeah, it accrues. Yeah, you can borrow from it, but I wouldn't recommend it, right? This is more of just like an emergency account you can use if you have to. Okay. So, and the reason I do that, guys, is because the cost of insurance with an IUL is a lot lower than the cost of insurance with a whole life. Okay. So if I spend $100 on a whole life, let's say they're the same age, let's say they're both 40. I spend $100 on an IUL, I get 100,000. I spend $100 on a whole life, I maybe get 30 or 40,000, right? So that's kind of the difference. So if you have a healthy client that's 60, right, and they have a just standard whole life coverage, well, you might be able to beat out that whole life coverage with an IUL for permanent coverage, right? And you pitch it like a whole life. And we're going to talk about how to build the value in whole life, how to build the value in term life, how to build the value in IULs. But like, I think it's really good to understand the psychology of like understanding your client and who you're talking to. And this is everything I'm thinking about when I'm sitting down with my client. So as I'm doing the suitability sheet, I'm thinking, oh, disability, whole life. I'm not even gonna like, okay, cool. Now I'm gonna figure out. Now I'm thinking about the underwriting for what product whole life is gonna be the best, right? Things like that. So if you guys want to take a screenshot of this, take a picture. I can also share this, whatever you guys want to do. Shout out Haley for helping make this, guys, and putting this all together for us. This is really nice. So we're going to have nice slides from now on. So, okay, cool. So now we're going to talk about the benefits here. Okay, of a whole life. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to read the benefits to you like I'm reading them to the client. Now, this is where we build value. Okay, now you've kind of figured out what product you want to go with, what's going to fit your client best. Now we're going to build the value. Okay, so we haven't shown any numbers or anything like that. We're just we figured out at this point when I'm reading the benefits, I think I already know the product and I wrote down the numbers. Okay, so and maybe that's something we can talk about too, is how to present the numbers. It's top down. Let me give me 1 second. I'm going to show you guys how to present the numbers here in just a second. Okay, so but this is how. So at this point, I've already have the numbers written down. Okay, I have their 3 options, and now I'm going to go over the plan. Okay, so hey, now this is going to be with whatever carrier. Okay, I don't have a note on this here, but I always talk really good about the carrier. So it's like Mutual of Omaha. Hey, this is going to be with Mutual of Omaha. They've been around since 1909, right? So they're not going anywhere. They've been through 2 world wars, pandemic. They've been through the 2008 crash. Like, these guys are not going anywhere, and it's a good place to insure your family. Okay, so just building up a little bit of confidence, credibility in your carrier that you're going with. All our carriers are A-rated, so it's like, just I mentioned that. It just gives them it makes them just feel a little bit better, a little bit safer about where they're putting their money in their family's future, right? So, all right, so I talk a little bit about the carrier. I just say, hey, they've been around a really long time. They're rated A with the Better Business Bureau. These are state-regulated plans. It's very regulated, so we can only work with carriers that are A-rated, that are going to pay out to your family. God forbid something was to happen. Okay, and then I'll go into the benefits. So, hey, John, this is going to be a whole life coverage. It's a permanent coverage. It never expires. The death benefit is guaranteed to remain level, as well as the premiums are guaranteed to remain level. What that means, John, is that your death benefit's never going to go down on you, and your premiums are never going to go up on you, right? This is, I'll make little jokes like, hey, this isn't the cable bill. I got this from Christian. I don't know if he's on here or not, but, hey, this isn't like the cable bill. You're not going to have to guess the price every month, right? You don't got to worry about this going up on you. This is always going to be the same, right? Get rid of a little bit of sales pressure, but I'm telling them what it is. Passes on to the beneficiary of your choice. So right here, I mentioned that this is a private coverage that they own. If they want to change their beneficiary, they want to make any adjustments in the future, they always can. Okay. I make them feel, and they are in charge of their plan. They own it, right? This is what differentiates it from the work coverage, right? You own this coverage. This is yours. Nobody can take this from you. Okay. It avoids any probate or court. So here I mentioned, hey, and I'll say their beneficiary's name. So, hey, John, Sarah, your beneficiary, this is going to avoid any probate or court. God forbid something's going to happen, because the check is actually in Sarah's name. So nobody can actually touch this money besides Sarah. God forbid something was to happen. Okay. Right. So people can't fight over the money. Okay. Next thing here is paid out tax free. So pretty straightforward. I tell clients, I say, hey, this just means Uncle Sam doesn't get it, take his 20% off the top. If you have a $10,000 benefit, they're going to receive a $10,000 benefit. It also is important to know that they're not going to have to pay taxes on the $10,000 benefit, because this is an insurance benefit. Okay. Doubles in the case of an accident, right? Pretty straightforward. Tell them, hey, anything external happens to you, you slip and fall, you pass away, somebody attacks you and hurts you, right? Somebody, you drown, you get in a car accident, right? Something that is external to yourself would be considered an accident, right? Okay. And then living benefits, the accelerated benefit rider. I put a star next to this because I think we need to do a better job building value on this, because pretty much all the policies, the whole life policies, have this, and we don't do a good enough job of talking about it, because this is a big selling point. Actually, I think my clients all really love this when I go into depth. So I say, hey, so this also has living benefits, John. The reason a lot of people like the accelerated benefit rider is because, God forbid, the doctor said, hey, John, you have less than 12 months to live, or you're diagnosed with a terminal illness. What you can do is you can take that doctor's note and send it over to Mutual of Omaha. And what they're going to do is they're going to actually accelerate the benefit while you're still alive. So, John, what a lot of my clients like about that is that they don't have to actually pass away to receive the money. In other words, if the doctor says you're going to pass away, the insurance company is not going to hold the money from you, right? And what a lot of people like about that, John, is that they don't have to wait to pass away, and it gives them peace of mind that they're going to have the benefits and their family's going to have the money to make sure everything's paid for ahead of time. Does that make sense? Perfect. That is huge, guys. I think that's really big. We don't talk about it. It's so big because they feel like they don't have to die for them to see this benefit actually work out for them. And people don't want to think about them dying. Like, people don't want to think about themselves like dying and not seeing this through. So I think it really gives it like a lot of like depth to it. And it doesn't just seem like just death insurance, right? Which I think is really good. Last two things, it builds cash value. So I tell John, hey, percentage of what you're putting in every month is going to a little savings account with interest. You can borrow from it if you need to. But I talk about like it's like a emergency account. I'm not building the value on the cash value, really. In reality, guys, cash values, if they use it, they have to pay it back, or it subtracts from the death benefit. So like, it's cool, it's nice, but the way that I tell clients, I would think about it like an emergency account. Okay. And then number 10, it's immediately effective if you are approved for the coverage. So I always tell John, hey, John, if you would have got approved, let's say we met up last week and you got approved and something happened to you yesterday, Sarah's going to get that full benefit. Okay. Something's happened. Does that make sense? Cool. Does anybody have any like questions or anything on here? I'm gonna look at the chat here. Do you cover all of these points in the sale and have them write down the 10 bullet points? If I'm over the phone,
Yeah.
I will have them write it down. Yeah, I'll have them write it down over the phone. Do you ever offer accidental
Now,
like
do
for
you have
cheaper?
them?
Go ahead.
Now, Ty, would you for some of our agents, because I've done this a while, I could run it through sometimes, and I'm coaching with you on this. So I would sometimes do like 5, I'm like, hey, it's permanent. It's going to never change in price. Number 2, I might bring up 5 now to a different customer. I might do 10. Are you pretty consistent? Kind of like, what's your flow?
As far as like,
always do 10?
I
Do you always, do you always have them write down 10? I usually just do 5. Like, are you covering all of them? Or do you have them literally
all
write
the
down?
benefits?
That was kind of my question. I didn't know if you
Yeah.
were writing down all 10 of these And if that was taking forever, if you're going really fast, or how it's rolling.
So yeah, so what I have them write down is actually I have them write down the actual numbers, and then I send them the sheet, the final expense benefit sheet, and I read it with them. I like make sure they're looking at it. I'm like, you see final expense benefits at the top? Yep, I see that. Okay. You see that first one that says permanent coverage? Yep. Okay, perfect. Now I know they're looking at it, and so they're looking at the same thing, and I'm just going into depth on each point. But instead of having them write it all down, I feel like that's going to be. I want them to write down the options. Right.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. That makes sense, dude. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll show you guys how to write numbers. And it's 7:53. I only have a couple more slides, but like we can keep going a little bit over if you guys want to, like for questions or like whatever. But it's a lot of information, but I think this is really important. I wanted to definitely go over all this stuff here. So so here's whole life. Okay. So that's whole life. Okay. The next one is term life. Okay. Guys, a lot of these benefits are the same, right? Voids probate court, guaranteed to remain level during the period, premiums guaranteed to remain level, pass on to the beneficiary of your choice. The only real difference is that the term lengths. So I have them write down, hey, this is going to be a 20-year term. During that term, it's guaranteed to remain level. The premiums are never going to change on you. You can explain it all those same points the same way. When it comes to 7, you can add accidental death. Some plans come with it, like Americo, the 125 comes with the 25% accidental on there. You can add accidental with other coverages. So just, let them know that. Living benefits. Now, this is really the main difference between term, right? So it's no cash value, right? Like a whole life. But it does have these living benefits. Accelerated benefit rider, like we just talked about. And then the chronic and the critical illness. Okay, so chronic, it's going to be unable to perform 2 out of 6 daily activities of living. And then critical is going to be like a major, like invasive cancer, heart attack, stroke, something like that happens, they can access a percentage of their benefit. Now, if you want to know numbers and you want to get into that stuff, I recommend you guys go to like the product guides on the actual, like Mutual of Omaha's product guide, Americo's product guide. Like you can go to the resources when you log into their back office or your portal, and you can find all the numbers for the stuff if you want to know exactly what it is for each carrier and each product. I'm not going to go into all that stuff, but just in general, term is going to have living benefits, right? So that's why we talk about term can be used for like mortgage protection, because we sell that on the living benefits, right? And so just know that's the main difference. And the last thing is it's immediately approved for the coverage, so that's that. Now, so term's pretty straightforward, guys. But I want to talk about the 3 components of an IUL. So this is when I'm talking to clients, kind of what I'm getting a gauge for. Okay. So I say, hey, John. So now I know we're going to do an IUL, right? Now, something I'll say about this, if they're going to spend less than if they're not doing it for supplementing retirement, like they're not doing it for cash value, right? Remember how we talked about over here? If they are ages 55 to 75, I'm not talking about the cash value, right? 0 to 55, I'm hitting more on it to where, because then the cost of insurance isn't too high where they can actually get a plan that actually makes sense. That's actually going to grow cash value. It's going to look good when you illustrate it, right? So I say, hey, there's 3 components of an IUL, John. What I can do is help you design this and whatever's going to fit your needs the best. So I know, John, you shared with me that you want to make sure that there's enough, you wanted a bigger permanent death benefit. Okay. So we can structure this. There's 3 components, right? The death benefit portion. So we can add more or less of the monthly premium to go towards the death benefit. The second is going to be the living benefits that are going to be tied to the death benefit amount. It's going to be the critical, chronic, and terminal illness rider on there. So if you get injured, hurt, sick, disabled, something happens to you, you can use from that death benefit to pay for, any medical bills or income replacement, stuff like that, right? So depending on the client and the need, and that's why it's important to ask the why and figure out what's important to your client. They might go, I love the living benefits. Okay, cool. We're gonna put an IUL focused just on death benefit, right? Which is going to be a really big target premium for you guys. You guys are going to make a lot of money for helping a client that wants a lot of death benefit or living benefits. Okay. So that's why it's important to figure out and ask those questions. The third component, John, is going to be cash value. So the cash value in the IUL, the growth is tied to an index. So it's a better cash value like growth than a traditional whole life. Traditional whole life is around 4%. IULs are anywhere from like 6 to 7% from what I see. Also, you can design these for larger death benefits. So a lot of whole lives guys, right? They only go up to 50K. True Stays goes to 100K for whole life. But with an IUL, if they're healthy enough, dude, I can go up to $1 million with Ethos, depending on their age. NLG, you can go as much as you want, really. I mean, 300K with Easy Solve, with Mutual, right? So you can get these bigger permanent death benefits that are clients really like those, right? So that's going to be the death benefit there and the cash value, and then the living benefits. Okay, so those are the three components of an IUL. What I would tell my client is I would say, hey, we can structure this a different way. We can structure this mostly for death benefit and living benefits, and you still have a little bit of cash value, but this is going to be protection focused. Or we can do a cash value focus where majority of the monthly premium is going towards the cash value growing. Or we can do
Drop it.
Can you guys mute, please? Please mute. Thank you. Or we can do a 50-50 blend, right? So it's going to be half cash value, half protection focus. That's probably our most popular option. And what I would say is that is like you guys could do it Easy Solve Americo IUL. You could do it Easy Solve Mutual Omaha IULE, right? For those kind of 50-50 blend options, or just protection focused. If they want the cash value, you might go in with F&G, NLG. You can do it with Moo. Maybe we'll do a training where how to design on WinFlex an IUL for cash value with Mutual of Omaha, and maybe we can do that another time. So but that's the components of an IUL, how you're going to be able to explain that to a client. Okay. And then the last thing here, I think this is the last thing. Yeah. Okay. Yep. This is the last thing, is Legacy Safeguard. Okay. This thing is so much value, guys. Like, clients love this. Okay. So I just made a sale like 2 days ago from a client, and I talked about the Legacy Safeguard, and no, I had another client. It was like, I don't know, it was like on Friday or something. I was on here, maybe some of you guys heard it, but I started going over the Legacy Safeguard with her, and she actually started crying, like on the phone. Like, she was literally like, this made it so real for her. And of course she bought the insurance, right? So I add on Legacy Safeguard as a add-on, a value add for the client. Okay, so what is Legacy Safeguard? Why is it good for your clients? Well, number one, it's completely free. Okay, so you guys can go to legacysafeguarduniversity.com and log in and create an account, and you can register your clients through there. They just need like a phone number, email, right? They're just basic information. You can put their spouse, right? But why is this good for you, and why is it good for the client? Well, these are all the services that Legacy Safeguard has. So I would talk about this probably right before I would show numbers, right? So I would go over, let's say we're doing the whole life, right? Or a term, right? This is going to be really, really, really big for whole life, final expense, like what a lot of us are doing in here. Okay. So you go through the benefits, and it's immediately effective for the coverage, John. Okay. Perfect. Now, what also comes with the plan is Legacy Safeguard. So Legacy Safeguard is a legacy planning guide software. They have an app. So you can do estate planning. You can do end of life planning, Legacy Safeguard advice, funeral home support. You can help with the insurance claims process, right? So for their beneficiary, they have grief counseling for their beneficiary. They do have a, it's not listed on here, but they do have a, it's like a, what is it? Like a mobile, oh gosh, what is it? Oh, it's a memorial, like locator, like funeral home locator. So if they don't know where they want to go for like their funeral home to like plan that end of life stuff, this gives your clients all of the support that they need, and it covers for their beneficiary. When I brought up the grief counseling for the beneficiary, because she had a pretty young son, she had as her beneficiary. She's like, he's the only one I trust. I said, well, Legacy Safeguard, it's going to help him with the insurance claims process. If he has to travel, it's going to advise him on that. grief counseling support. So, you know, if you need somebody to talk to, there's like a free service that he can use. That's really going to be a big help. But, and you can also link your will to this. If you guys haven't offered a will to your client, you should offer them a free will kit. We talked about that one of the last calls, right? I'll put the link in the email that'll go out to all you guys. And then, but yeah, this is going to be Legacy Safeguard. I literally had a client cry a couple days ago and she bought the insurance. Like, this is a really big add-on. I just kind of touch on it. And then this is how you explain it to them. Once you enroll them in this, they're going to get a little card in the mail. Actually, let me pull up my, I'll show you guys what it actually looks like. So they're going to get this email, right? And they're going to get a card in the mail. So this is all the different stuff here. So I'll come down here. So they're going to get a member ID. And on this Legacy Safeguard, they're going to get in the mail. Look, it has their name on there, a member ID, and it also has my number on there. And they're going to get 2 cards, right? So they're going to get 1 card for themselves and 1 for their beneficiary, right? So as a member of Legacy Safeguard, you and your family may call for legacy planning, estate planning, support, end-of-life planning, guidance, and assistance, support for survivors. Can you guys mute, please? Thanks. So that's going to be, yeah, that's going to be huge, guys. I mean, they're going to get literally 2 cards in the mail. So what I tell the clients is to go, hey, you guys are going to get 2 cards in the mail. One's for you, one's for your beneficiary. If they need anything, my information is on there. I'm tied to Legacy Safeguard. I have your member ID as well. Call me. If they need anything, they can call me. But everything can be linked through this member ID. So all their funeral planning stuff, everything that they need is through Legacy Safeguard. And it's completely free for them. But I tell them it comes with the plan, right? So I'm just going to enroll them, right? So this is what I'm doing now. I think this is going to really help with our retention because you help them plan all of their end of life stuff, right? And it's going to help retention, less chargebacks, right? And your name is on the card. The beneficiary's name is on the card. And what it's going to do too, guys, is Legacy Safeguard, I'm still learning about it, honestly, but I think it's a really good way you can get referrals too. So like they'll send them something in the mail saying, hey, who else do you know that needs something like Legacy Safeguard? And then they can enroll their friends. If they enroll their friends, you're going to get notified and you can reach out to them and you're kind of tied to the account. So, hey, I'm helping you with the Legacy Safeguard. It looks like you guys have any trouble? You guys all taken care of? Okay, cool. What do you guys have in place to pass on to your beneficiary if something has to cover the financial costs, right? So then you're already in there, right? So you can get a lot of referrals this way. I haven't got to that point yet, but I know that that is a part of it. But this is a huge just value add-on we can add for free to all of our clients that are dealing with final expenses. And I think that this is just going to separate us from every single other agent out there. And I just think it's huge. So that's what I'd be talking about with you guys for the Legacy Safeguard. So really quick, I know we're over. I'm going to show you guys how I show my numbers really quick. Just if you haven't, if you're brand new. You guys can unmute if you have any questions. We can do a little Q&A for a couple minutes here, and then we'll have you guys off here. But if you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and unmute. Okay. So, all right, if you guys don't have any questions, we're good. So now I just went through with the client, right? I went through all of the benefits. I explained Legacy Safeguard. They have so much value. Now they're at the highest point of value and the lowest part of sales pressure. So this is where you're going to go, and you're going to go show them 3 options. So I tell them to write down option 1. My handwriting is absolutely horrible, so just don't mind me. Option 2 and option 3. Okay. So I tell them to write it down. If you're doing telesales, if you're in person, I just write it down in front of them. So I do this. Okay. So I go option 1, I'll write down at the top of it, write benefit. Okay. So, and then if you do 2, and then the other side would be whatever premium. Okay. Now I'm going to be showing them, if you guys don't know, cremation costs anywhere from like 3 to like 7K, burials like 10 to 15K. Anything after Anything more is going to be basically like money left behind unless they do something fancy. So that's just like a good, you know, kind of a, what's the word? Um, like guideline to go by. So when I'm explaining these options, the client kind of knows what we're looking at. So we're looking at, let's say 20,000. So I tell John, hey, John, 20,000, that's going to be for, 108, 42, 15,000. It's going to look like, whatever it is, 82, 33. Okay. Now, when I'm explaining these, right, to the client, I'm writing it like this and I'm having them write it like this. And I explain, hey, John, so option number one for 20,000, that's going to be 108.42. With option one, what that's going to do is you shared with me you wanted to take care of the burial costs. Burial costs typically is going to be anywhere from like 10 to 15,000. Unless you do something fancy, it might be a little bit more. So this 20,000 option is going to make sure the burial is taken care of for your beneficiary, Sarah. And then also it's probably going to leave behind maybe around like 5,000 left over, just depending on the fanciness and what you guys do, if there's travel involved and things like that for the family. But 20,000 should definitely be able to at least cover, so she's not coming out of pocket. Maybe leave her a little bit behind. Option two here, John, is going to be for 15,000. That's going to be for only $82.33. Now on here, this is, like I said, 10 to 15,000 is going to be the burial, John. So this should cover the cost of the burial. You just can't do nothing fancy. But this is just going to make sure Sarah doesn't have to come out of pocket. Probably won't leave her too much behind, but this is a little bit more affordable option, right? But this is still going to take care of what you needed to take care of. And then option three, John's going to be for 10,000, and that's going to be for $53.40. And so option number three, John, this is going to cover, if you do something really, really simple, this is going to cover majority costs of the burial. Probably won't cover the entire cost, but what I tell a lot of my clients, John, is sometimes your heart's a little bit bigger than your wallet, right? This is more just for like a budget option. I'm sure, Sarah, is going to appreciate $10,000 covering a lot of this majority of the cost rather than zero. So this would definitely be, if you're, on a budget, and this is going to be more, what you're looking at, 10,000 is going to make a little bit more sense to start here. In the future, you can always increase your policy as long as you don't have any other major medical changes. Does that make sense? So what I'm doing there, when I'm explaining the options, is I'm explaining what this money is going to do. So it's not just a number and it's not just a price. I'm painting the picture. What is this 15,000 going to look like for Sarah? What is this 10,000 going to look like for Sarah, right? What is this $20,000 going to do? Okay. Well, it's going to take care of cost of travel. It's going to take care of cost of the memorial. It's going to cover the casket, right? It's going to cover all of the things that are necessary that come into planning the stuff, right? And then they're going to pick a price, right? Okay, I want to go for the 82, whatever, in the middle, right? But all that value you just gave them, you protected them financially. So you protected them financially with the insurance, right? And then with the legacy safeguard, you actually are helping them. And then the will kit, you're actually helping them plan the actual end of life stuff. So you're so much more than just an insurance agent. You're actually connecting them. You're actually really going to help them and their family if something actually was to happen, right? And you're going to help their beneficiary. You know what I mean? How many times have you guys got beneficiaries that are like younger kids, right? 18, or sometimes they're under 18. They're like, I don't even want to get the money until they're 18, right? But they're the only ones responsible. It's like, what are they going to do, right? So, this, what you're really selling, guys, is you're selling peace of mind. So, when you're doing that, it's huge. I think that it's going to be it's going to be a game changer going over legacy safeguard. And if you build the value like that every time to your client before you show them the prices, they're going to buy more. They're going to buy more and they're going to keep it because there's so much value behind what you guys are giving them. So that's really all I had. I know we went over. My apologies, guys. I thought it was a lot of good information on there, but yeah, like you said, Haley, this is going to set you apart from every other agent out there. Who's doing that, right? A lot of people are just looking for a quote to get off the phone. So